what we have here. This is the hooray moment. Oh, unemployment is down.
Wow.
0.3%.
Amazing job, Carney. Amazing job.
6.8 to 6.5. Okay. At first glance, if that's all you heard on the CBC, hats off, right? We're getting her under control here.
I mean, we had a high mark of 7.1 just a few months ago.
Yeah. So that's what it says. But I drilled through the numbers here for you, and I have them for you, but and I got them in a little more digestible. But I just want to show you kind of on Stats Canada here, where 65. This is the participation rate down here, and so this is 65% versus 65.4%. It's like, oh, okay, maybe that doesn't sound too bad. But if you go back and see, you're going to find that this is outside of COVID. This is the single biggest drop in labor participation in nominal population in the last decade, probably ever, but I only went back the last 10 years.
Wow.
It's the single biggest drop, right? And I'm going to kind of summarize it for you here is, this is the unemployment rate by age category. 15 to 19-year-olds, 19.5%.
No jobs for you.
No jobs for you.
Sorry, no first jobs, no service work jobs, no busboy jobs, dishwasher, any of that stuff. No first jobs for you.
That's right. Now this category is always higher historically, but 19.5% is a lot, right? Like, we 10 years ago, we could see 15%, 13%, 14%, 15%, right? Like 20% is a material difference, okay? 20 to 24% is 9.3, okay? 25 to 54, 5.5%, and 55 plus, 5.1%, okay? Now, what's the population in those brackets? So 2.3 million, 2.6 million, 16.8 million, 12.9 million. Okay. Now, here it is the participation change. So these are the people who gave up looking for work. Okay. Because if you're calculating the unemployment rate, you only calculate the unemployed individuals divided by the people who are actually employed or looking for work. So if you say that they're not looking for work, they're no longer included in the unemployment number.
Okay, so they exclude that. So it looks like the numbers are better than they actually are.
That's right. They exclude the number of people who are supposedly in the labor force, either working or looking for work. If you just put them to the side, all of a sudden you can have no material increase in jobs, but you can have a decrease in unemployment. So we're talking about 11,500 people in this category. The change by 0.5%, the number of people in this category actually looking for work. 24,000 people from 20 to 24 stop looking for work, and 100,000 people from 25 to 54 stop looking for work.
And what's the time frame here? Is this like a month? One
month.
Holy.
It's the single biggest monthly adjustment. Like, I just had to, look at it and drill in, right? I saw that some of the headlines and analysis online, right? And so I wanted to go by a little more detail in category. And then you start to look, anybody 55% plus obviously hasn't been affected, or as a whole, anyways, as a group. I'm sure there's individuals out there, but as a whole, no change in the participation rate, best, unemployment rate, of that age group. And there was no material reason for them to change their status of looking for work or not, really. Right? Okay. I want to drill into the analysis of, so for those of you who didn't understand what the participation rate, now you understand what the participation rate, and now you actually understand it by age demographic too, which is important too. So I want to, walk you through a history and time. It's like, why aren't they looking for any work? Surely there's all these good jobs, right? I don't think so. I think that I'm going to tell you the reason where I think a lot of people overlook why they're not looking for work, because the jobs don't exist. And I'll tell you why I think the jobs don't exist. Okay. There's 41,500,000 people in Canada, according to our last update, Q4.
Sure.
Okay. 2019, there was 37,800,000 at the end of 2019. All right. So in 6 years, we had a population increase of 3.7 million people.
Man, that's a lot.
Okay, and I'm going to walk through some numbers here. All of these, if you want to look, like they're on StatsCan. You can see these tables. You can look it up here. I'll even give you the titles of the tables if someone wants to nerd out with these. The labor force characteristics, monthly, seasonally adjusted, and trend cycle. And then when you get to the other one, employment by class of worker, again, seasonally adjusted. It's important to compare either seasonally adjusted or nominal, but don't cross-reference them both because you'll get a little bit confused. And there always is a large drop-off historically from December to January, but this seasonally adjusted number teases that up. So it's not. So if you just look on a nominal basis, like we lost 250,000 jobs last month, but that happens historically from December to January. So this is
for sure.
This is smoothed out. Okay. But when I get to this number here, okay, what is 2,695,000? 2,695,000 is the number of people in Canada report being self-employed in 2026. In 2019, there was 2,841,000. There's 145,000 people less today who report being self-employed, owning a business, than there was 7 years ago when our population was 3.7 million people lower.
I see something interesting with these numbers. I don't know about you, but just doing, back of the napkin math. So we've got gave up. Look, add up the gave up column.
Yeah, well, like 137,000 people gave up looking for work.
And we've got 145,000 self-employed, no longer self-employed people out there. So those people could have had jobs and maybe employed one of the people who gave up looking for work, right?
Exactly. I mean, historically, small businesses have employed half the workforce, a little over half of the workforce, right? But they just don't exist. So people are wondering, like, why did they give up looking for jobs? It's because the jobs don't exist because nobody wants to start a business. Like that is the mathematical reality of that. But I don't think I've heard one politician on either side of the aisle talk about the number of people self-employed at the end of 2019 versus now, because they're all in on it. Like in my mind, like they're all in on it. You've seen like the in various provinces, as a country as a whole, it's like we just have less businesses. We've not created the favorable environment, right from calling all the business owners tax cheats to, putting in more and more rules and hiring tens of thousands of people at CRA to audit them into oblivion. It's like they gave up. Right. They gave up. Right. And, unfavorable tax treatments. Right. When you look at the ability to depreciate assets on an accelerated basis in the US and actually deploy capital, far better in the US. And people just look at headline tax rates. And I don't think they understand that the headline tax rate is actually preferable in Canada. But if you can write off all your assets right away, it changes.
It's even better.
It changes the headline tax rate altogether, right? And then the number one that I always tell people is just the availability of capital. It's just not there.
Yeah.
All of the lending goes towards residential housing in this country. It does not go towards businesses who actually create jobs.
Yeah, that's right. And when we say that Canada is broken, it's an example of Canada being broken.
I have here all of this here. This is right from the Stats Canada website. Okay. All of that's right from the Stats Canada website. This is my own analysis that I've been running for a while. It's an estimation. Okay. So I'm just going to put that in italics here. This is just an estimation. So this is, in 20, I'll just flip it the other way here. Actually, in 2026, we have about 350,000 people in Canada that drive for food delivery or ride sharing. Okay.
Okay.
They would predominantly be reported as self-employed. Okay. And then what we have here is today, or actually in 2019, you had 150,000. Okay. So I just flipped them just so that they're in the right year here. But today we have about 350. It's a bit of an estimate, but I think everyone would agree that there's more people who drive for Uber and skip the dishes today than there was 7 years ago.
Absolutely.
I think that's it, right? Most of those people were reported as self-employed. Okay. So that means there's 200,000 additional businesses that will be listed as self-employed that wouldn't be. They're employees of Uber and Skip the Dishes. But for tax reporting, they're going to show up as self-employed. That's how now there's nothing wrong with doing the job, but I'm telling you, it skews the number. If you're trying to quantify and analyze the probability that a business is going to be created, a business that's going to employ someone, this is skewing the number. And so I would suggest that there's probably 345,000 less businesses than there was 7 years ago when the population was 3.7 million less.
Man, that is a huge blow to Canada, huge blow to our population. We have a production problem. And you know what? Seems to me the only answer that the government has is find new ways to tax us. Find new ways to extract whatever is left over, from the quote unquote tax cheats that we are, small business owners, real estate and so on. We gotta flip the script on all of that. And we have to get more entrepreneurs on the boat, man.
Yeah. And so, I mean, this is obviously shows the difficulty of the assignment, right? So if you're looking for work out there and you're in those age groups, it's harder. If you're going to start a business, you understand that you're starting a business in a climate that wasn't as not as business friendly today than it was 7 years ago. Okay. Nothing has ever, these businesses got obliterated during COVID and they never came back. And anyone who disagrees with it is just not looking at the numbers, right? This is not my anecdotal experience of clients that I saw go through hardship. This is just the raw data from StatsCan. They just don't exist today. And it's crazy that the nominal rate has still not caught up to where it was 7 years ago, despite the massive increase in population. And so you have to understand it is tougher out there. It's tougher getting a job. It's tougher starting a business. Okay. But the misconception, when you start a business, sometimes it can be tougher to start a business, but if you do it right, the upside is better because the competition at the top is less. Okay.
That's right.
That's it. But most people still don't have an understanding of that because they're thinking about businesses that sell things to the middle class. Okay. They think that I'm building a business of products and services that are only bought by the working class who are getting obliterated. No, there's more money out there, but you have to know what products and services that you're going to sell and how you're going to market to them. It has to be different. Okay. And so the other part about it is a lot of people will see this and say, I'm scared the Canadian market's going to hell. There's not going to be anything left for me. Let me sell all my Canadian stocks. I'm getting out, right? That's not what's going to happen.
I just bought more today. Spoiler alert.
And I think I will tell the viewers why Trevor bought more today, and I'll probably buy more later today. So, what is going to happen, how they're going to deal with this, what's going to happen is we will turn back on. This is not what I think we should do. I mean, I think, Trevor highlighted on some of the things we wish would happen, right? That we make it more friendly for, make more capital available, make the rules more friendly and more capital available for people to actually start productive businesses. But what they will probably do is increase the population through immigration. We need some more low-skilled workers because people are not looking for work anymore. Then they will increase the money supply to support those who are not working and to support those who moved here with very little skills. Okay. Then what will happen because of that is nominal GDP will continue to increase, not real GDP, but nominal GDP will continue to increase. And the people who own the oligopolies of Canada will continue to get enriched in the share prices. That's what the likely, rollout will be of that. So when you see this and you're concerned for the working class, yes, you should be concerned. But if you think that concern for the working class will translate into a depression of the asset prices held by those with the desirable assets, no. That's the disconnect that's hard for most people to understand. It's like when you start to see that, when you start to see regular working people giving up on finding a job, that's how hopeless it is.
Yeah.
You would think, well, everything's going to go to hell. But you have to understand, we complain about the oligopolies in Canada. It's like most of them have products that they sell to people who it's the last thing that they will give up on. They're going to pay. They're going to put some gas in their car. They're going to heat their house. They're going to keep their cell phone bill on. So they have, kind of that price protection and that moat against those services that they almost can't do without. Also, they also have a complementary set of services that are premium services sold to people who have that nominal money supply. Right? Because that's what happens when you print money is it moves the money from the people who are doing the work to the people who own the assets, and it just reinforces the cycle of what will go, right? And so we will sing out for Canadians as a whole, we'll sing out for government supports, and they will run wild deficits, and they will increase the money supply, and they will enrich the people who own the desirable assets.
Well, that you bring up a point, like people will cry out for more government supports. The problem is the government support comes from printing money and borrowing money against your future and devaluing your dollar. So the more
in your earning.
Exactly. The more support you want from the government, the less buying power you have, the less leverage you have to improve your life. So people who are dependent upon these services and supports and think the government should do something, just remember, it's coming for you. It's the government isn't on your side. Everything they do is to enrich themselves in the oligopoly.
And I'll even go at the other one where people will say, well, what if we did it with honest taxation? What if we just raised taxation, right? But you start to understand when you study tax rates historically and across the world that you can change tax rates, okay? You can change tax rates to 0%. You can jack them to 90%, okay? We've tried this in different countries and at different points in history, right? But you start to get something where you start to understand that there's basically a supply and demand curve of taxes, right? And this is coined the Laffer curve, where Art Laffer, he studied this and put the data out on it, where it's basically, you can raise taxes at 90%, and there's periods in history where we've done that, but you start to see that the overall tax brought in actually doesn't increase, okay? Because when you jack taxes through the roof, all of a sudden people stop investing. Why would I invest in a business if it's successful? On the odd chance that it's successful, they're going to want 90% of it. Why would I deploy the capital anyways, right? Why would I not move that capital offshore? Why would I not invest in more and more aggressive tax planning? If they're going to take all of it anyways, I might as well try my best at reducing that tax bill. And that's what happens. And we can just see throughout history that once you get tax rates over about a third, the actual tax collected actually doesn't go up, right? And for those wealth taxers out there, like please run the numbers. I think the Netherlands just did something where you can pretty much run this in most Western societies, where if you just confiscated all of the wealth, 100% of the wealth of the billionaires, you'd run the governments between like 1 and 2 years. You got about 12 or 20 more 4 months of real estate like that. It's just. Like it sounds good, but once you run the math on it, it's just like, it's not practical. That's not going to solve it.
And California wanted to roll this out. You look at the news reports, and some of the biggest companies who started there and tried to stay there, they're moving.
Zuck's moved, didn't he?
Yeah.
I think Zuckerberg moved.
I think Zuck's moving. Tesla moved, and In-N-Out Burgers moved out of California because, they just wanted to take their money for no good reason. They're just wasting it. So there we go. Case in point, it's happening today. They think it's going to work, but it just never does.
So now you know what is happening, the difference between unemployment versus the labor participation rate. Okay. So it might, although unemployment coming down might seem good, if people are simply giving up looking for jobs, it's not as it seems. Now you also understand the difference in the age demographics of who is actually giving up. Okay. So now what do you do about that? You got to get good at this money game. Okay. So you got to get good at this money game because earning a wage is going to be harder. Okay. If you want to start a business, you better be really on point with it because it is harder. It is objectively harder. Okay. But once you know the medicine, for better or worse, the medicine is going to be turn on the population creation, the human printer, let's call it, right? Like we're gonna ramp up the population through immigration. We're gonna increase the money supply. We're gonna crank up nominal GDP. Once you understand that cash flows into the desirable assets, all you gotta do is understand is what are those desirable assets and how do I borrow money effectively, to position myself that I'm going to benefit from it. That's what, that's what the cause is. It's not, this is the cause. Oh my goodness, the employment, I pull back all my capital and stay in cash. That's actually the worst thing to do.
Absolutely.
They'll get you again with the inflation tax, right? When those people get hammered, the bondholders, the savers, the wage earners, they get hammered when the money supply increases, right? And so what you have to do is you have to learn what the desirable assets are and how do you borrow responsibly, prudently to position yourself to benefit from the increase in the monetary base.